Sarah, before we dive in, let's clarify what exactly do we mean by unstoppable confidence? Is it just feeling brave all the time, or is there more to it? Great question, Alex. Unstoppable confidence isn't about never feeling scared. It's about believing you can handle challenges even if you feel nervous. For example, speaking English to strangers, even if your heart is pounding. So, it's not about being fearless, but more about having courage despite fear? Exactly. Think of confidence as a muscle you build it with practice. Every time you try, even if you make mistakes, your confidence muscle grows a bit stronger. Let's talk about what stops people from feeling confident, especially when learning English. What are the most common barriers you've noticed? A big one is fear of making mistakes. Many learners worry about grammar or pronunciation. There's also the fear of being judged or just feeling embarrassed in front of others. I can relate. When I was learning Spanish, I always hesitated, afraid of saying something silly. But research shows that people who practice out loud improve 40% faster, even if they make errors. That's a key point. Most people are focused on communicating, not on your mistakes. In fact, making errors is a sign you're learning. It's really about progress, not perfection. Moving forward, let's explore the psychology behind confidence. Why do some people seem naturally confident while others struggle? It often comes down to mindset. Studies show that people who believe skills can be developed, what psychologists call a growth mindset, are more likely to take risks and bounce back from setbacks. So, thinking I can get better with practice actually rewires your brain to be more confident? Absolutely. Neuroplasticity means your brain forms new pathways each time you try. Over time, this makes speaking up feel less scary and more natural. Let's make this practical with a real-life conversation example. Imagine you're ordering coffee in English. Sarah, can we roleplay this? Sure, I'll be the barista. Hi there, what can I get started for you today? Hi, I'd like a medium latte, please. Notice how simple and direct that was. Even if you're nervous, using a basic phrase gets the job done. Exactly. And if you make a small mistake, most people will still understand. The goal is communication, not perfection. Now, let's break down some useful vocabulary from our coffee shop example. Sarah, what does I'd like mean exactly? I'd like is a polite way to say what you want. It's short for I would like. Using this phrase makes requests sound friendly and confident. And if someone asks, what can I get started for you? That's just another way to say, how can I help you? Right. Learning these common phrases helps you feel more prepared, which in turn boosts your confidence in real situations. Let's switch gears and talk about grammar. Many learners worry about getting every tense right. What should they focus on to sound confident? Focus on clarity over complexity. Simple present tense works for most situations like I want or I need. Native speakers often use simple sentences in casual speech. So rather than saying, I would have liked to order a coffee, just say, I want a coffee? Exactly. Simple grammar helps you speak faster and reduces the chance of getting stuck mid-sentence. Confidence grows when your words flow easily. Many listeners have told us they freeze up when it's time to speak. Sarah, what practical strategies can help overcome this anxiety? Start small. Practice speaking to yourself or record voice notes. Then, try chatting with a friend or language partner. Gradually increase your audience like a staircase, one step at a time. That's a great analogy. Studies also show that slow, deep breathing before speaking reduces nerves by up to 30%. Have you tried that? Definitely. Also, visualizing a successful conversation can prime your brain for success. The key is consistent, low-pressure practice. We often focus on words, but what about body language? How does posture or tone of voice affect confidence in conversation? Body language is huge. Standing tall and making eye contact signals confidence, even if you feel unsure inside. Harvard research found that power poses boost testosterone and lower stress hormones. And your voice matters too, right? Speaking clearly and varying your tone helps others understand you and makes you sound more self-assured. Exactly. Even smiling while you speak changes your voice, making you sound friendlier and more confident. Listeners respond positively to these cues. Let's address something every learner faces: mistakes. Why is it important to view errors as stepping stones instead of setbacks? Because mistakes are proof you're trying. Research by Cambridge University found learners who reflect on and correct their errors improve twice as fast as those who avoid risk. So instead of saying, I'm terrible at English, try, I'm learning, and every mistake helps me grow. That shift in thinking can be a game changer. Absolutely. Celebrate your progress, not just your perfection. Every conversation is a chance to build unstoppable confidence. As we wrap up, let's share some daily habits listeners can use to keep building confidence. What's one simple routine you recommend, Sarah? I love the 3 wins journal. Each day, write down 3 small successes like starting a conversation, learning a new word, or not giving up when you're stuck. That's powerful. Also, surround yourself with positive, supportive people. Studies show we mirror the attitudes of those around us, so confidence is contagious. And don't forget to reward yourself. Small celebrations reinforce your progress, making you more likely to keep going. Remember, unstoppable confidence is a journey, not a destination.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into the art of realistic English conversation, using an everyday coffee shop scene as our foundation. Dr. Carter, why do you think casual settings like a cafe are so effective for language learning?
Great question. Coffee shops provide a low-pressure environment where language flows naturally. Studies show learners retain vocabulary better when it's tied to familiar contexts, like ordering coffee or chatting with friends.
That makes sense. It's much easier to recall phrases you've used in real life. As we transition, let's examine the emotional dynamics at play in such conversations.
Absolutely. Emotional context, like the nervousness James feels before his interview, adds authenticity. It mirrors real situations, making practice more meaningful and memorable.
Let's break down James's experience. He mentions anxiety during his interview, handshaking, and forgetting his words. Why is this such a common reaction in high-stakes speaking scenarios?
Anxiety triggers our fight or flight response, which can impair cognitive functions. According to the American Psychological Association, about 75% of people report speech anxiety, leading to symptoms like trembling or memory lapses.
Those numbers are striking. So, does practicing in safe environments, like a coffee chat, actually help reduce this kind of stress?
Yes, regular exposure to low-pressure conversations builds resilience. Over time, the brain learns to associate speaking with positive outcomes, lowering stress hormones during future high-pressure moments.
Emma reassures James that confidence isn't about perfection, but about trying despite fear. How does this perspective benefit language learners?
It's transformative. Viewing confidence as persistence rather than flawlessness reduces fear of mistakes. Research from Cambridge University found learners who embrace errors progress 30% faster in conversational fluency.
Interesting. That aligns with the idea of a growth mindset. As we move forward, let's explore practical strategies Emma suggests for building confidence.
Absolutely. Emphasizing effort over outcome not only fosters resilience, but also encourages experimentation with new vocabulary and expressions.
Emma mentions practicing short answers in front of a mirror. Can you explain why this technique is so effective for improving spoken English?
Certainly. Mirror practice offers immediate visual feedback, helping learners monitor their facial expressions and body language. According to a 2019 study, those who practiced with mirrors showed a 40% increase in self-reported speaking confidence.
That's impressive. Would you recommend combining mirror practice with recording oneself for even greater gains?
Definitely. Recording allows for self-review of tone and pacing, while the mirror supports nonverbal cues together. They create a comprehensive self-improvement cycle.
Emma also says smiling helps her relax and sound more confident. Is there science behind this simple trick?
Yes, smiling triggers endorphin release, lowering stress and signaling approachability. A Harvard Business Review experiment showed interviewees who smiled were rated as 30% more confident by observers.
And what about making eye contact? James mentioned he struggled with that.
Eye contact projects assurance and helps establish trust. Practicing with friends or in front of a mirror can gradually desensitize learners to this challenge.
James worries about using fillers like and How can learners reduce these verbal tics without losing their train of thought?
Replacing fillers with intentional pauses is key. Research from UCLA found that speakers who paused for a beat, rather than saying, were perceived as 25% more articulate. Practice with timed responses can help retrain this habit.
Would rehearsing with a friend like Emma help in this case?
Absolutely. Peer feedback increases awareness of fillers and provides encouragement, making the process less daunting.
Emma's encouragement seems to lift James's spirits. How important is peer support in language acquisition?
Peer support is invaluable. According to a 2021 study, learners in supportive groups showed double the improvement in speaking confidence compared to those practicing alone. Encouragement reduces fear of judgment and fosters persistence.
So, having a confidence coach like Emma can truly accelerate progress.
Exactly. Even small affirmations, like "you've got this," can reinforce positive self-perceptions, creating a virtuous cycle of improvement.
Emma suggests just 5 minutes of practice a day. Is such a brief routine really effective in building language skills?
It is. Consistency trumps intensity for language retention. Linguist Paul Nation's research shows daily micro-practice leads to better long-term results than sporadic hour-long sessions.
That's encouraging for busy learners. Could you provide a sample 5-minute routine for our listeners?
Certainly. Try answering 3 common interview questions aloud. Record yourself, then review for clarity and confidence. Over time, this habit compounds into noticeable fluency gains.
Our conversation highlights how language skills extend beyond speaking. How do these techniques translate to overall life success?
Building confidence in English often strengthens broader communication, problem-solving, and resilience. For instance, mastering interviews in a second language can increase employability and self-efficacy in other challenges.
So, learning to express yourself clearly is a gateway to both personal and professional growth.
Absolutely. These skills open doors, foster connections, and build a foundation for lifelong learning.
Let's wrap up with key takeaways. What should listeners remember from Emma and James's coffee shop chat?
First, embrace mistakes as growth opportunities. Second, practice consistently in low-pressure settings. Third, seek peer support and use tools like mirrors and recordings to track progress.
And don't forget the power of a smile and a few words of encouragement. Thanks for joining us today, and keep practicing.
Thank you. Remember, confidence grows with every conversation, one cup of coffee at a time.
Let's kick things off by exploring the phrase, "that takes guts." This came up when Emma mentioned going to an interview. Dr. Carter, what does guts really mean in this context?
Great question. In casual English, guts is a vivid way to describe bravery or courage. Picture someone standing up in front of a crowd. It doesn't literally mean organs, but rather inner strength to face something scary.
So it's not only about big heroic acts. Could using guts make everyday bravery sound more relatable?
Absolutely. For instance, saying, "It takes guts to speak English in public," emphasizes the personal challenge. Studies in language learning show that reframing anxiety as courage can boost participation by up to 30%.
Moving on, Alex mentioned the phrase, "I got super nervous." Dr. Carter, can you break down how "got yawn" emotion works in English?
Of course. Got acts as a bridge to describe a change in feeling. If you say, "I got excited," you're explaining a shift in mood. This construction is informal and very common in casual conversations.
Interesting. Is this structure used only for negative feelings like nervousness, or can it express positive ones too?
It's quite versatile. Learners can say, "I got angry," "I got happy," or even "I got confused." The flexibility makes it a useful tool for sharing personal experiences, which is essential for authentic communication.
Let's delve into the phrase, "I wish I sounded more confident." Dr. Carter, what's going on grammatically here?
This is a great example of the "I wish I yaon" past tense structure. Even though you're talking about a present desire, English uses the past tense after wish to signal that it's something currently untrue.
That can be counterintuitive for learners. Can you relate this to another language or give an analogy?
Sure, think of it like using the "if only" structure in French or Spanish. It's a way to express regret or hope for change. For example, I wish I knew more English words means you'd like that to be true now.
Shifting gears, that's a good idea, is another phrase that stood out. Dr. Carter, why is this expression so widely used?
It's simple, supportive, and immediately signals agreement or approval. In workplace settings, saying, "That's a good idea," can foster collaboration and show respect for colleagues' suggestions.
Would you say it's effective for building rapport in new environments like classrooms or meetings?
Definitely. According to a 2022 Harvard study, people who validate others' input with phrases like this are 40% more likely to be seen as approachable and trustworthy.
Now, the encouragement phrase, "you've got this," is popular in English. What impact does it have, especially for language learners?
It's a confidence booster. "You've got this" translates to "I believe in you." In a classroom scenario, this phrase can reduce anxiety and increase a student's willingness to participate by making them feel supported.
Can this phrase be overused, or does it always come off as sincere?
Context matters. If used genuinely before a test or presentation, it feels encouraging. However, if repeated without context, it might lose its impact. Variety in supportive language is key.
Let's take a closer look at the grammar tip using even when. Dr. Carter, what function does this clause serve in sentences?
Even when introduces a contrast. It shows persistence or consistency despite obstacles. For example, "I study English even when I'm tired," highlights determination to keep learning, no matter the circumstances.
Could you give another example relevant to daily life?
Certainly, she practices piano even when she feels discouraged. This structure is common in motivational settings, emphasizing effort regardless of challenges.
Building confidence is often compared to building muscle. Dr. Carter, how can learners apply this analogy to language practice?
Just as muscles grow with regular exercise, confidence in English develops through repeated use. Even small steps, like speaking up in class, gradually strengthen your ability, much like lifting slightly heavier weights each session.
Does this mean mistakes are part of the process, similar to initial workout soreness?
Exactly. Mistakes are like the soreness that signals growth. Embracing errors rather than fearing them leads to faster improvement and more authentic communication.
Let's compare "you've got this" with more indirect encouragements, like "you can try if you want." How do these impact learners differently?
Direct encouragement, such as "you've got this," offers explicit support and belief in the person's ability. Indirect phrases may unintentionally signal doubt, which can lower confidence, especially for beginners.
Are there cultural differences in encouragement styles across languages?
Absolutely. For example, Japanese often uses indirect encouragement to maintain humility, while U.S. English favors direct motivation. Understanding these nuances can help learners adapt to various social contexts.
To make these phrases stick, what real-world situations are best for practicing them?
Role-playing is highly effective. Imagine preparing for a job interview or comforting a friend before an exam. Applying phrases like "that takes guts" or "you've got this" in simulations boosts retention and practical confidence.
Could learners also record themselves or practice with language partners online?
Definitely. Digital platforms like language exchange apps enable learners to use new vocabulary in spontaneous conversation, enhancing both fluency and comfort.
As we wrap up, what strategies can learners use to steadily build confidence in English communication?
Setting achievable goals, such as initiating one conversation daily, helps. Celebrating small wins like mastering a new phrase enforces progress. Research shows that tracking improvements boosts motivation and long-term language retention.
Is persistence more important than perfect accuracy in this journey?
Absolutely. Consistent effort, even when mistakes happen, leads to steady growth. Confidence is less about knowing every word and more about the courage to keep trying, learning, and not giving up.
Welcome back. Today we're exploring how speaking practice strengthens real-world confidence. Dr. Clark, can you explain why saying positive phrases out loud actually works?
Absolutely. Repeating affirmations engages both your auditory and speech centers, reinforcing neural pathways associated with confidence. In fact, studies at Stanford show self-talk boosts performance under pressure.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about language, it's about rewiring how we perceive our abilities?
Exactly. When learners vocalize phrases like, I've got this, they're not just practicing pronunciation, they're training emotional resilience. Over time, this reduces anxiety during real conversations.
Let's delve deeper into repeat after me exercises, a staple in language learning. What makes this method so effective, especially for beginners?
It combines muscle memory with auditory input. When learners mimic native speakers, their brains form stronger associations between sounds and meanings, similar to how athletes practice drills repeatedly.
So it's almost like rehearsing for a performance then?
Precisely. Just as actors rehearse lines to sound natural, language learners gain fluency and confidence by repeating phrases until they become second nature.
Transitioning from repetition, let's discuss role-play scenarios. Why are these so valuable for learners aiming to use English in interviews or at school?
Role plays simulate real life situations, allowing learners to practice responses in a safe environment. According to Cambridge research, this prepares students for spontaneous speaking and reduces fear of mistakes.
Can even simple role plays, like introducing oneself, make a significant difference?
Absolutely. Practicing greetings or self introductions builds foundational skills. Over time, learners become less intimidated by unfamiliar contexts, such as job interviews or class presentations.
Earlier, you mentioned how positive self-talk can rewire the brain. Can you elaborate on the underlying neuroscience?
Certainly, neuroscientists have found that repeating positive statements activates the brain's reward circuitry. This releases dopamine, making learners feel accomplished and more willing to keep practicing.
So, by saying, I believe in myself, learners aren't just boosting morale, they're actually changing their brain chemistry?
Exactly. It's a feedback loop. Confidence encourages more practice, which leads to better performance and, in turn, greater confidence.
Let's address a common hurdle fear of making mistakes. How can learners use speaking practice to overcome this barrier?
Mistakes are essential for growth. By practicing out loud and embracing errors, learners build resilience. In fact, language acquisition studies show that error correction leads to faster improvement than silent study alone.
Could you share a practical tip for handling mistakes during practice?
Record yourself and listen back. Not only will you spot areas to improve, but you'll also notice progress over time, a great motivator to keep going.
Speaking of recording, how does listening to oneself accelerate language learning?
Self-review helps learners identify pronunciation gaps and track their growth. A 2021 study showed that students who regularly recorded themselves improved their fluency scores by 30% compared to those who didn't.
That's a significant boost. Does this technique work for all proficiency levels?
Yes, from beginners to advanced speakers. It fosters self-awareness, which is crucial for mastering intonation, rhythm, and natural expression.
Let's move to personalizing affirmations. Why is it beneficial for learners to create their own phrases rather than just copying others?
Personalized affirmations resonate more deeply, increasing their motivational impact. For example, saying, I can confidently answer any interview question, targets specific anxieties, making practice more relevant and effective.
How might learners tailor affirmations to their unique challenges?
Identify your biggest fear like speaking in front of a group and craft a positive statement addressing it. This builds targeted confidence and sets clear, achievable goals.
Another aspect is the social element. How does practicing alone compare to practicing with a partner or group?
Solo practice builds self-reliance and allows for focused repetition. However, group practice introduces real-time feedback and unpredictability, better simulating real conversations. Both methods complement each other.
Would you recommend balancing both approaches for optimal progress?
Definitely, start by building confidence alone, then test your skills with others to develop adaptability and listening comprehension.
As learners continue practicing, how can they measure their progress objectively from initial hesitation to increase fluency?
Track your ability to speak without pausing or translating in your head. You might record short introductions now and compare them monthly. Linguists suggest setting specific milestones like holding a 2-minute conversation as benchmarks.
That's practical advice. Are there specific signs that indicate significant growth?
Yes, greater comfort in making small talk, improved pronunciation, and reduced anxiety are all strong indicators of progress.
To wrap up, how can learners transform speaking practice from a short-term challenge into a lifelong habit?
Consistency is key. Establish a daily routine, even if it's just 5 minutes. Integrate English into everyday tasks like narrating your actions or describing surroundings. Over time, this keeps skills sharp and confidence high.
So, by making speaking practice part of daily life, learners ensure continuous growth.
Exactly. Lifelong habits lead to lasting fluency and adaptability skills that open doors both professionally and personally.
As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to appreciate how far our listeners have come in their journey toward confidence. Sarah, why is simply completing this episode already a meaningful milestone?
Alex, it's significant because making time for self-improvement is an act of courage. Even listening and reflecting shows a willingness to grow. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that setting and achieving small goals like finishing a podcast builds momentum for larger achievements.
That aligns with the concept of micro wins. Each small step lays the foundation for bigger successes, right?
Absolutely. Micro wins help rewire our brains to expect progress. For example, a Harvard Business Review article found that tracking daily accomplishments increased motivation and self-belief over time.
A lot of people think confidence means never doubting yourself or always getting things right. Sarah, can you clarify what genuine confidence actually looks like?
True confidence isn't about perfection. It's about resiliences showing up even when you're nervous, speaking up despite doubts, and continuing after setbacks. In fact, research from Stanford shows that embracing vulnerability can make us appear more authentic and trustworthy.
So, instead of aiming for flawlessness, we should focus on perseverance and self-compassion. That's a big mindset shift for many learners.
Exactly. And this mindset allows room for growth. It helps us view mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures.
Let's talk about practical habits. Sarah, what small daily actions can listeners take to nurture their confidence, especially in English learning?
One of the most effective is practicing for just 5 minutes a day. For instance, repeating a new phrase in the mirror or recording yourself speaking can make a huge difference. Cognitive science shows that consistent, short practice sessions outperform occasional cramming for skill retention.
That's encouraging, especially for busy people. Even minimal effort applied consistently compounds into significant progress.
Exactly. It's about building a routine that feels manageable and sustainable rather than overwhelming.
You mentioned saying, "I've got this" in the mirror. How does positive self-talk actually influence our confidence on a neurological level?
Great question. Positive affirmations activate the brain's reward centers. A University of Pennsylvania study found that regularly practicing affirmations reduces stress and increases resilience. It's like reprogramming your mind to expect success rather than fear failure.
So, in a way, each encouraging word plants a seed of self-belief that can grow over time.
Precisely. Over weeks and months, those seeds can blossom into a robust, self-sustaining confidence.
Confidence isn't built in isolation. Sarah, how important is having a supportive community when learning a new language or skill?
Community support is critical. According to a 2022 Cambridge study, learners in supportive environments reported 34% higher confidence gains than those studying alone. Encouragement and constructive feedback help normalize setbacks and celebrate progress.
That's why we love cheering our listeners on. Knowing others believe in you can be the push needed to keep going, especially during tough times.
Exactly. And sharing successes, no matter how small, multiplies their impact.
Everyone encounters setbacks, mispronunciations, forgotten words, awkward pauses. How can listeners transform these challenges into confidence boosters rather than confidence killers?
It's about reframing mistakes as stepping stones. For example, a 2020 language learning survey found that students who viewed errors as feedback improved twice as fast as those who feared making mistakes. Embracing imperfection fosters experimentation and growth.
That's reassuring. If we treat each stumble as a lesson, we build resilience and adaptability, which are key components of confidence.
Absolutely. Every mistake is evidence of progress, not proof of failure.
Let's explore the importance of visible milestones in sustaining motivation. How can learners track and celebrate their growth effectively?
Keeping a journal or recording short videos can make progress tangible. For example, reviewing an old voice memo after a month often reveals remarkable improvement. A study published in the Journal of Educational Psychology found that celebrating small wins increased persistence by 42%.
That's a great idea. Visible milestones serve as concrete reminders of how far you've come, which can be especially motivating during plateaus.
Exactly, they turn abstract progress into something you can see, hear, and feel proud of.
Let's shift gears and invite our listeners to participate. Sarah, why is sharing personal strategies or experiences with others so impactful for confidence building?
Peer learning creates a sense of belonging and accountability. When listeners comment with their own tips, they not only reinforce their knowledge, but also inspire others. Social learning theory suggests that observing and discussing strategies amplifies collective growth.
It's a virtuous cycle. Each shared insight strengthens both the giver's and receiver's confidence.
Exactly. A single comment can spark a chain reaction of encouragement and new ideas.
We often mention how much we value reading listener feedback. Sarah, what's the educational value of engaging with comments and community discussions?
Feedback offers personalized insights that can pinpoint strengths and growth areas. Moreover, a 2021 Duolingo report found that learners who actively participated in forums progressed 28% faster than passive users. It's a dynamic, interactive way to enhance learning.
So, being part of the conversation, asking questions, or offering support deepens understanding and motivation.
Precisely. It transforms learning from a solo effort into a shared journey.
As we conclude, let's focus on sustaining confidence in the long term. What final advice would you offer listeners to help them keep growing after today's episode?
Keep learning, keep practicing, and remember confidence is a lifelong process, not a destination. Even when progress feels slow, each effort builds your foundation stronger. A supportive community and a growth mindset make all the difference.
That's a powerful reminder. Whether you're a beginner or advanced learner, embracing the journey is what truly matters. And as always, we're here to support you every step of the way.
Absolutely. You've got this, and we can't wait to see what you achieve next.